Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Easter Congress. This is round three. This game is a really good example, I think, of trying to squeeze small positional advantages and really taking it to your opponent and making it hard for them to play. Um, we're going to see in this game, unfortunately, I wasn't able to do it, but it's really interesting to see in the analysis afterwards what moves the computer came up with and what I came up with myself and how I could have made this more difficult for my opponent. But yeah, anyway, I played knight f3 and move 1 as I do. My opponent plays d5. Again, I'm in the under 2000 section. It's an open section, but it's pretty much under 2000 and higher. So I'm the lowest rated person. My opponent is higher rated than me again. I play d4. This is why I play knight f6, c4, c6, knight c3, and e6. Here we have a semi-Slav defense. I have been questioning a lot recently, and I say this pretty much in every Slav video that I make, what to play against the Slav. But against the e6 semi-Slav rather than the actual Slav, I play g3 because now the bishop's being closed in, and this fianchetto is going to be quite nice. That's sort of the main trigger point that I'm looking for is e6, so I can play g3. He brings his bishop out. Now, this is a slightly unconventional way of playing this system because you are sort of developing your better bishop, because this bishop is the good bishop for black. Notice how all these dark squares he needs to control. But then he's offering to trade it. So it is fine to play, just nobody plays like this because it just seems a bit odd, in my experience at least. Play bishop g2, just developing. He attacks my knight, but this is not something I'm scared of. I'm more developed than he is. He's only got two pieces out and he's trying to use his whole army to attack me. But I can just defend. Queen c2. Also my queen, that's where my queen wants to be, so this is developing for me. I'm completely happy with this. He brings his queen out again, attacking, but really this doesn't really have any threats, and I can just keep developing. Bishop d2. And also when he takes and I take back, it looks like he's won the bishop pair and now he's got this strong dark square bishop that remains uncontested. And this is perhaps the way he should play. But really these knights are controlling this important e4 square. And if you know from Castellan or fianchetto structures, this is the main thing that I want to be playing for. So I'm very happy in this position. I've opened up my bishop as well. And I'm one move away from completing development where he's still got to develop all of his queenside. So he develops, I castle, and the move that really surprised me was taking my knight, because now, at least beforehand, he got rid of my dark square bishop, but now he's getting rid of his best piece too, and he's just going to be left with this bad bishop on c8, which is very typical in the games I get, because I play the castle. He castles, I play e4, breaking in the center. This was the whole point of my setup, it's why I took with the knight this way. He takes, I take back the knight. Notice how his knight's not already on this square to trade with me. This is another very common idea where I'd have to take back the queen. And I would lose this pawn even, but yeah, his knight isn't in time yet because he's made some sort of very aggressive moves when he wasn't the one in the driving seat. He brings his queen back, and I think this position is actually really important because so far white, I feel, has done nothing wrong. I mean, if I do say so myself, I've just developed, I stopped any of his threats, I'm fully castled, yeah. Whereas black has this bad bishop on c8. Yes, I have a double pawns, but really they're not an issue and I'm controlling the center. So perhaps pause the video and try and think of an idea that you would come up with here of how you want to play this position. And sort of a secondary question is, what is the target in black's camp? What is the weakness that you're trying to play after, beyond just the c8 bishop? So often in these kinds of positions, is the best thing to do is close down the position and then go against the king, attack against the king. Unfortunately here, because some pieces have been traded, the king side attack doesn't work as well as it does in other games. And that's something that I've been learning a lot recently, is just closing down and basically shifting all the pieces through this important e4 square. It's why white really wants to control it, and hence why you wanted to play e4 earlier, and then just go after the king. But like I said, you trade a lot of pieces, so it doesn't work as much. So here, the important target, which is sort of weird to think to me at least, is actually this c6 pawn, which looks really well defended, and how would white ever go against and attack it? But we can see in the next few moves, it's actually really hard for black to defend. So c5, just solidifying that pawn on c6 so it can't move. And again, what do you play for black? I mean, you're completely cramped. You can't move your knight this way because I'll just take and ruin your pawn structure. If you play what my opponent played in the game, b6, to try to develop his bishop, and you can now see why the 6/6 pawn is weak, because now we the eye of my bishop, And yeah, it's just the target. So perhaps again, pause the video and now try find the follow-up to this. Why can't we go after c6 and how are we going to do that? So the move to play, and unfortunately I didn't play this because I didn't realize that c6 was the weakness, and I just played a sort of okay, average improving move. There's nothing wrong with it, but it sort of loses the threat that you have because this position's already +1 for white, which isn't a lot, but it's still +1. Yeah. So the move that I played sadly was rook b1, which sort of just doesn't really make sense, and it just allows him to take, and we get to this position, and the game will continue. I mean, I can take this way if I really want to. And yes, this pawn is still a weakness and white is still slightly better, but I'm not in a position yet to attack it. Whereas we compare it to this move that really is the sort of star move in this position, which is, oh no, Queen A4. The same idea of just going after this pawn. If you push, this is just bad because this pawn is now completely weakened. There's no way you can threaten to take. Your bishop is trapped in. This just isn't good for black at all, so you can't play this. Oh, sorry. Um, what else to play? I mean, you can take here, and this is something that I didn't consider in the game. Is now we get the same pawn structure that we had before, but instead of my queen being on c2 and my rook being on b1, now I have my queen on a4 instead of my rook being on b1, and we can see that this is already an improvement because this pawn is under attack, so black has to defend and just bring my rook to the file. He has to defend again. I can bring my rook in. He still has to defend. I can bring the other rook in, and now it's becoming quite awkward. He has to play bishop e8 to defend the bishop to defend the pawn. Play h4, just gaining space if I really want to, because again, black really has no moves to play here. H6, because what else do you play? And then I just have this nice idea of just bringing the bishop in and attacking the rook. And this has gone from about +1 to +2, and it's really hard to come up with a defense for black. And yeah, you're just struggling basically with no moves. So this position is nigh impossible to lose as white as well. So all your moves that seem fairly straightforward once you come up with the idea that the c6 pawn is the target. Unfortunately, I just didn't do that. Um, and you can see that I didn't do that because if we scroll back all the way through here and I played rook b1, I was unhappy with this move because I basically just allowed him to take, which to my surprise he didn't take and he played bishop here, attacking my rook. But again, if I'd known that c6 is a target, instead of moving my rook, which is what I did, no, I didn't move. I attacked the queen and then I moved my rook like this. But now by taking the mistake is now that his pawn can push after taking back and really has no problems. But instead I can play c4 here with the idea that again I'm just going after his weakness here. So if he takes, I can then even sacrifice a pawn and go after the c pawn. He obviously can't take here because I take his bishop, so he has to move his bishop back. If he moves his bishop back, then I can move in. And again we get the same position. Well, you could even say it's an improvement because I've also got this rook b1 move in, and his bishop is back where it started, so I've had an extra move to play. So yeah, unfortunately I didn't come up with this idea. It's something I have struggled a bit in the past is getting these types of positions, and black's pawn structure looks really solid, but now hopefully this game has sort of shown me that it's the c6 pawn that's the target, or perhaps the king if there are still some more pieces on the board. And these are the things I need to be going after because really black is going to be struggling and they've got to find some, I wouldn't call them only moves, but difficult moves to find. Unfortunately, I don't do that. I get back to the actual gameplay, rook b1. He develops his bishop, I take, he takes back because his queen's with attack, he can't take my rook. I move my rook over, he brings his bishop in. Again, I could play c4 here, which is much better, stopping him from blockading me, because now he gets a blockade and I can't really be better. My pawn's under attack, I've got to push it. He brings his rook in, I bring my rook in, and we sort of just dance about a bit. And we get to this position. And he actually offers me a draw, which is sort of anticlimactic, which is why I sort of focused on the previous section so much, because that was sort of the main point of this game, and really where I could have had an advantage. To set the scene, this game was being played about 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening. It was the third game of the day. I'm white against a higher rated opponent. He offers me a draw. In this position, perhaps white could be better after queen b2 or something like that, but it's pretty much dead even. There's nothing really to play here for. And perhaps I will mess it up because remember I've messed up a couple of games before this despite having winning advantages already. So yeah, I just took the draw in this position, which is a bit, yeah, like I say, anticlimactic, but at least I got a draw against a higher rated opponent, so I can't really complain too much. And the only real mistake I can really think of that I played this entire game is this one Rook B1 move. So overall, yeah, pretty happy with how I played. But yeah, I will be recording the other two games from this series, which are a bit more exciting to give that away. And then hopefully I'll also have some time record the recent event that I played in because that was much better. And I've actually, not to spoil too much of it, I've reached a new peak rating, which is nice. But yeah, anyway, cheers, thanks for watching.